Creating a video game has always sounded super interesting, but I have no idea where to start, and I am an extreme beginner when it comes to coding. Let's see what we can do using just AI tools. What better place to start than GPT, as we need some ideas. So let's say name 5 of the easiest game development platforms for an absolute beginner, because that's me. And we'll be nice. Let's even say please. Let's see what GPT spits out. So here are some options. Now the first one here. Let's just choose the first option, Unity. I've actually heard of this platform being extremely beginner friendly, so we'll give that a try. Let's go ahead and actually grab Unity Downloader. Now we'll just go ahead and go here and we'll download one of these. There's 2 options here, and I hate options. Sure, let's just go here. So here we are in Unity. It's always so daunting when starting something new. Exciting, but daunting. So 2D or 3D. Honestly, I feel 2D should be much more beginner friendly. So let's just go ahead and go with that. At this point, I was excited at the potential of creating a game in only a couple of hours using AI. Little did I know it would be an almost 36-hour journey of running in circles, creating something only to break something else, fixing that issue only to create a new one. Before we continue, I want to say the entirety of my conversation with ChatGPT will be linked in the description down below. You can read it and use it however you wish. Alright, so the first thing any game needs is a player. Now keep in mind, any scripting we need or coding, Unity uses C#, so I know nothing about that. I've never touched that. I've dabbled in a little bit of Python, but this is no experience, 100% beginner. So GPT is not only going to be writing all of these scripts for me, it's also going to be telling me where to put them and how to implement them, as well as all this stuff on the right. This is all 100% foreign to me. I have no idea what I'm looking at. So GPT is going to be doing all of that for me, all of the instructions. Midjourney is going to be creating all of my graphics. So what I came up with was this little player right here. This is a little ship, and this was created in Midjourney using the prompt that you see on your screen now. And then I went to a tool known as remove.bg, completely free to use, and just cut out the background, and we are left with this little player. Now real quick, this player needs to be able to move. So I want it to move with the WASD keys, and I want it to actually fly. So let's take a look at this script here, and I have that as the ship controller script. So let's go ahead and open that up. Now this is on display capture, so you should be able to see this. Now this is completely foreign to me, but what we basically have are these things called public floats. Now mind you, GPT explained this all to me, and now I can explain it to you. This is basically what allows it to move. And then we have this right here, a move input. So the move input is based on, let me see if I can find it here. This right here, this is how we start flying, this is how we end flying. The entire script is going to be in the description for you. So let's go back here, and if we click on play, let me make sure this will work. If we click on play, we should have a little ship that goes up and down, left and right, hopefully. Okay, so we have a little ship here. We can go up, we can go down. So this is basically going up with W, and then we will just fall, and then we can go left to right. So that is how we have our player working. Again, this is just a little Midjourney 2D image that we rendered into Unity. GPT let me know that we had to use something called a sprite renderer over here. We also have to have the script, which it told me to just grab it, drag it, and drop it in here. And then we have these things, which actually gives it a body, I guess, rigid body 2D, And then it said it needed something known as a box collider. And this is going to be, so whenever we touch the floor or the roof, it will end the game. So those endless runners, there has to be a way to die. So let's go ahead and look at the floor. It told me to right click on this menu over here and create an empty object, and then just make it a box collider 2D. And you can actually see that on the bottom here. So when the player touches the floor, and we can go ahead and play this. And if we go and we just let it drop, and there we go, we have end game. The game has ended. So if you hit the floor, you lose. And we did the same thing with the roof. We put another box collider on the roof up here. So now we have the floor and we have the roof. But one thing I wanted to do is give it a background. Now again, using Midjourney, this is the background that we came up with. This did require another script though, because I wanted this to loop. Now, when I went into Midjourney, I'm going to show you this on the screen now, I used something known as a tile parameter. A tile parameter is going to be used for looping images or never-ending or endless images. So anytime you're in Midjourney, if you want to generate something that appears to be endless or just loops seamlessly together, you're going to want to use the tile parameter. So let's go ahead. We have our player, we have our roof, and our floor. Let's go ahead and click play with the background to make sure that is working correctly, make sure it's looping seamlessly and it doesn't look terrible. We don't see any breaks in here. So now we are flying around our outer space cave and all looks good. If we touch the roof, the game will end. So there we go. Now we actually want to set up that play button. This was a bit difficult because I didn't know that you had to make a new scene. So we had to make this main menu scene. And let me go over here. So here we actually have the main menu because I didn't want the game to just start as soon as you clicked play, or rather as soon as you got into the game. I didn't want the ship to just start falling on you. And when the game ended, I didn't want it to just loop and automatically restart. So I wanted there to be some form of menu. Now we're using the same background, we're just making it simpler because we don't need a looping background. All we need is a functional play button. Now what GPT told me to do is go to the top left in this hierarchy window that you see over here on the left, right click and create an empty canvas. So we hovered over UI and then we went all the way down to canvas and added a button. Now this button just needed a script, so you can see on the right, load scene button script, and that is going to be this right here. Very, very simple. All of this code is just copied from GPT and then pasted into the Visual Studio Code. So it basically says load game scene, so it loads the scene known as game, which is that original scene where you can fly around and do things. So whenever this button is clicked, it will load the scene, or at least it should. The other thing we needed was an on click, and this kind of messed with me for a while, so I had to add this on click that when I click the button, you can see it does load scene function. So again, this is all extremely foreign to me, but now if I click on play, what we should have is this initial scene here, which we do, and if we click on play, it should actually load our game, which it does, and then the background starts looping and our player is functional. Great. So we have our main menu, which is the scene, and then we actually have our game scene, which is right here. So coming along nicely. Now with any endless runner, you have some sort of obstacle or barrier. And I kind of thought of Flappy Bird in this instance where you have to make it through the barriers. If you touch a barrier, the floor, the roof, you die, the game is over. So it's an endless runner with the point of getting the highest score possible. So again, using GPT, I made this little asteroid. And this is just something from Midjourney. I generated it with Midjourney. I will put the prompt up here for you so you can use it if you wish, and you can see the parameters that I used as well. And once again, I used remove.bg to make it just a floating object without a background. Now, this asteroid was very simple to just get into the game, but to actually get it to function was an entirely different story. When I say I spent 5 to 6 hours just rigging up this asteroid. That is no lie. Let's actually take a look at the script that is controlling this asteroid. And here it is right here. So public class, I guess that's the name of this file, would be the asteroid. We needed to give it a speed, a body, and we needed to make sure that it stayed within our screen, right? We don't want something coming up above our screen or out of frame. So GPT let me know about this private vector to screen bounds, which is actually defined in this line right here. So it'll stay within the camera view. So the camera view is what's overlooking our screen. Now, I wanted to go a bit further, so I had GPT give it health. Because in the end, I want to be able to shoot from our player's ship and destroy the asteroids. So a little bit above and beyond what, say, Flappy Bird would do, where you just navigate through them. I want to actually be able to interact with the asteroids and destroy them. So I asked GPT to give each asteroid a health counter. So here we have the health counter, and here we have the option for the asteroid to be destroyed. Now, we had to attach this script. Let me go ahead and click back on the asteroid. Right down here, you can see asteroid script, max health, and the speed in which it will travel. And this is traveling just along the x-axis, so it will travel right to left. This all sounds pretty crazy talking about it now, as I had no idea what I was doing going through this. But it also needed a collider, because if it hits the ship, we want the game to end. But if a bullet hits the asteroid, we want the asteroid to be destroyed. So that's what these colliders are for. Anytime you see a collider 2D, that just means we're interacting with something. Remember, we had this on the floor and roof as well. Apparently, has to have a collider and a rigid body 2D to actually interact with the code. So now this little asteroid, if we hit play, what should happen is the asteroid will then begin to flow towards us like that, and if we touch it, the game will end, and when the game ends, it takes us back to the menu where we can then click play and try again. So this is really starting to come together, but we only have one asteroid. I want asteroids to continuously spawn on the right side of the screen and kind of flow in, so we have continuous obstacles. This was really, really difficult. We had to make a deploy asteroid script, and this right here was the hardest part to figure out, because the z-axis is going to be inside or outside of the camera, the x-axis is going to be on either side of the screen, and of course the y is going to be above or below. So I had to actually define what range I wanted it to spawn in, and the hardest part was this z-axis range, because the asteroids kept spawning outside of the camera. So I had it create this initial script, and then I just went back and forth with GPT. If you read through that conversation that I linked in the description, you'll see just constantly, no, I want it to do this. Can you rewrite the script adding this? Can you take away this? Telling GPT, well, now this is broken, and just round and round and round until eventually we got all these different little parts and pieces that we put together, and I think we have functionality. Now, initially, I added it to the asteroid because I'm wanting to spawn asteroids and I think I know what I'm doing. It turns out that that broke absolutely everything. We had 1 million asteroids start spawning. They were just falling out of the sky. Nothing was working. So when I asked GPT about this, it said I actually had to put it on the camera. So if we click on the camera, you'll see a deploy asteroid script and a respawn time. So let's go ahead and make sure this is clicked on, and we'll go ahead and click play to make sure that these asteroids will, well, make sure they will actually start to spawn. So here we go, you can see the asteroids, and then we have to flow and fly through them. Okay, so this is great. This is really starting to actually look like a game, but I want to actually be able to interact with the asteroids. I want to be able to shoot them. Remember, if we run into them, the game is over. But I want a way to actually destroy them or get them out of our path, really. Because in the end, I want little coins to spawn, much like the asteroids, so we can collect the coins and see who can get the highest score and survive the longest. Much like any other graphic or any other thing you see on the screen, we needed the icon for the bullet. Now, For this, I couldn't get Midjourney to actually generate a bullet. I tried ray gun bullet, ray bullet, laser beam, all of these different things. Nothing worked. So I ended up, you'll see it on the bottom left here, right here. I just grabbed a Canva prefab and we're going to use that as our bullet. So you can see on the right we have a bullet controller script. So let's go ahead and actually pull that up so you can see what is going on. So this is the bullet. Of course, it needs to have speed as we want it to be able to go from left to right from the player. We also have this right here, this transform.right times speed. This is what has it move right along the x-axis. We also wanted to give it damage, because remember, we gave our asteroid health, and it starts at a health of 3, so we wanted to give our bullet damage. So we have this right here, which is damage amount equals 1. So each bullet, each time a bullet is fired, it will do 1 damage if it collides with the asteroid. And you can see here, if collision.gameObject compare tag asteroid. So when I saw that, I had to go back to my asteroid, and on the top right, I had to give it the tag of asteroid, and that's how, apparently that's how the script recognizes it. So if our bullet collides with the tagged game object asteroid, it will take damage. Let's see here, I'll scoot back. It'll take damage, and then if enough damage amount is dealt, it will destroy the game object. This will destroy the bullet, and it will destroy the asteroid. So let's go ahead and turn the bullet on. And then there was one other thing in the actual player. So inside the player, I had to make something known as a shooting point. So this is the shooting script, and I'm going to open that as well, because this is what actually, so one script controls the bullet, and I dragged this little empty object right in front of the player, so that's going to be the spawn point. Again, ChatGPT is instructing me how to do all of this, and you can read that in the full transcript. So let's go ahead and open up the shooting script, and you can see if keyboard current space key was pressed this frame, it will instantiate or spawn the bullet prefab. This bullet prefab is going to be what I grabbed from Canva and then stuck it onto an empty game object and then loaded it into the player. So if you press the space key, it should shoot. Okay, so we have the bullet over here, we have the player, and one other thing I had to do on the shooting script, you can see it right here, bullet prefab, I had to grab, drag, and drop that into here for the shooting point. So let's see if that works. We're going to click play, and a few things should happen here. I should be able to fly around and press the space key like that, and not die. And they should collide with the asteroid, and if I do 3 damage to an asteroid, let's just see if I can get there, it should disappear. So now we can clear the barriers in our way. So we're flying around, we are shooting, and we are destroying asteroids. So this is all working. Let's make sure the other collision works though. If I touch one, the game should end. So that is now working properly. And again, just a bunch of circles back and forth with GPT. So we have our player, our background, we have our barrier, and we can actually shoot to destroy the barrier. Now we need something to collect, and that's where this comes in. Let's go back to assets. You'll see on the very bottom of your screen, I have this little coin. Again, I couldn't get Midjourney to generate something, so I grabbed a prefab from Canva, and this was probably after 20-30 minutes of just trying different prompts to generate something with Midjourney. So we just had Canva generate one for us, and we stuck it over here in something called coin prefab. We also had to have a coin script, which you guessed it, Midjourney, or not Midjourney, but GPT wrote it for us. A lot of this is just controlling, making sure it stays in the screen bounds. I'm not sure why it has a health tag, but let's hope that doesn't mess with anything. And then we also have the velocity, so it's traveling. And then we have the collision. So on collision, enter 2D. If collision is with player, so you can see the player tag here. If I go back and click on player on the top right, we have player it collides with our ship, it should play a coin sound, which we'll actually get to later. And yeah, so it just has the on collision effect with the player, and the ship controller script should also have that as well. So it has if collision with asteroid end game, collision with floor, and then all that load main menu, and then if collision with tag coin. So we added the rigid body that we'll need to recognize. I'm not entirely sure. The one thing we had to do in here was freeze the rotation on the z-axis so our coin wasn't bouncing in and out of frame, and we had to add a collider to it. Let's actually go to the coin prefab. We added a circle collider and the renderer. So let's actually turn this on the top here, and you can see our little coin on the screen. And let's go ahead and hit play. We want to make sure of a couple things here, that the coin will actually keep spawning, and we also want to make sure that we can collect the coin. So there we go. It doesn't kill us when we collect the coin, but we can go through. And the next thing we're going to do, you can see on the top left, we actually have a coin counter, which will tally how many coins we have while I try not to die. Okay, well, I died. I got up to 7, I think. But we had to have GPT write another script for us that would actually keep track, and that is score. So we had to go to the canvas and actually add the text up here. That was very, very simple. We just right-click, go down to UI, go to Legacy, and just added text. We just changed the text and dragged it, right to where we wanted. But then we had to attach this score script. So this basically says when the round starts, our score starts at 0, and then the text that we have, the text that we just added, named coins, is going to be coins plus score number. Now let's actually talk about score number, because on trigger collision, so when the player collides with the coin itself, we're going to have the score number plus up by 1, and then we're going to destroy the game object that is the coin, and then we're going to go up 1 on the score, as you saw there. So if I click play again and we go back to the coin counter, when I collect a coin, it should just go up to 1. So we collected a coin, it went up to 1. Let's go ahead and collect another one, and it went up to 2. So this will just continuously count up and up and up. At this point, it came down to really just fine-tuning a few things, making sure everything worked correctly, and then I wanted to add some sound. So we created an empty and just called it BG Audio, and then all we did is add component and then audio source, which you can see here, and I grabbed from a site called Pixabay, I grabbed a dark ambient sound. So we just plugged that into the audio clip here, which should play when we start the game. So play on awake and loop, so it's going to be never ending. Now on sound, I also wanted a sound to play when the bullet was actually fired. So if we go to the bullet prefab, or actually I believe it's connected to the player or the shooting point, there we go, the shooting point, we attached a shooting point or an audio source to the shooting script itself. So you can see the shooting script and the audio source. These are both underneath the player. Let me go ahead and turn the desktop audio up. So now when we play, we should get 2 different sounds. We should have a sound play as our background noise, and we should also, whenever we press down on the space key, a bullet will fire and we will hear a noise. So let's go ahead and test that out to make sure both noises are working. And it looks like they are. So there we go. We have a ship that is flying around that can shoot at the asteroids and destroy them. We can also collect our coins, and we have all of our sounds playing. Now, the last thing that I want to do, which I have not been able to do yet, is make a sound ping whenever we collect a coin. This is something that I've already spent 3 or 4 hours on, going back and forth, and you can actually see on the coin prefab, I have a coin sound linked up with a collider effect. but it's just not working. So this is something that I have to work on, and once that's done, all I want to do is add a title screen. So if we go back to scenes and we go to main menu, let's go ahead and don't save. I want to add a game title up here and then maybe some control keys to let you know what the keys are. But after this is done, I'm going to do two different things. I'm going to actually walk through a tutorial. So I'm going to release a full tutorial so you can build this exact game at home. And the other thing I want to do is actually deploy it so you guys can actually play this game, and we'll see who can get the highest score. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. Like I said, this was almost 40 hours of work put into this with no experience using AI. And it came out pretty cool. But if you want to know some more cool things you can do with AI tools, check out one of the videos on your screen now, especially the one on the right. My depth map tutorial can make your 2D images into some insane 3D environments and 3D worlds. As always, make sure to like this video so the algorithm is friendly to it, and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this.